What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So on today's video, we're going to be installing a dash cam. We're going to be doing it on the 2022 Pathfinder. Now I'm going to show you how to do it in this car. Most cars are pretty much the same if you want to hardwire them. The camera I'm installing is going to be a Rexing dash cam. It's a 4K cam. It actually comes with a front and rear camera. And I'm going to be hardwiring this camera to the Pathfinder. Now, most installs are pretty much the same. The Rexing cam already comes equipped in the box with basically a fuse tap and, of course, or a 12-volt charger. If you want to plug it in straight to your 12-volt outlet or a USB, however you want to do it, it comes equipped with that stuff ready. But if you need to hardwire this, there is a hardwire kit also that is available for this. And basically, you could pick all this up in the description and in the link I'm going to post down below. Now, I'm going to be doing this in this Pathfinder. The difference with the Pathfinder, I don't know about other vehicles out there. The Pathfinder has actually accessories, various accessories, which I've already installed. If you guys follow my channel, check those videos out. But I've already installed a bunch of accessories on this car, from kick plates to pass-through lighting to the illuminated entry lights and everything else. And I've already used the accessory connectors for this car. Now, a lot of people can tap into the fuse box. I don't like tapping into the fuse box if I don't have to. I'm going to actually hardwire this using the accessory connectors. So if you have a 2022 Pathfinder and you're watching this video, the accessory connector is about 30 bucks. I think it's about 30 bucks tops. It's no more than $30. And it can be done very easily with just 3 wires and the wires that comes with the camera and the kit to install and hardwire everything. Again, this camera does have, just a USB connector. You could put the camera up on your windshield, plug it into a USB, and you're good to go. It's ready to go. But I'm going to hardwire it so when the car turns on, the camera turns on. When the car turns off, the camera turns off. Also, in the kit for the hardwire, you actually get a motion sensor, which you could put on your windshield if you want. This motion sensor, basically, if the car is off and somebody walks by this, it actually activates the camera. That's in case you park the car outside or anything else in a parking lot where a lot of people are walking by. The thing with that is, if you have a lot of foot traffic, if you're like in a downtown area, that thing's gonna be constantly activating, which is not good in a way. If you're like in a parking garage, maybe that's a good area to do it. But in my scenario, I'm still not sure if I'm going to install that on the car. My wife's car is pretty much in a garage, and she is in a parking where she goes to her job. There's a parking lot. I don't know how many people actually walk in front of it, but that's pretty much most of it. But again, if you're in a really populated area where there's people constantly walking by, I don't think you should put the motion detector on, because it's constantly basically going to be going off on you and activating the camera. But either way, I'll figure that out and I'll decide if I'm going to do that while I install it. Right now, let me show you what comes actually in this box of this Rexing 4K camera, and then we'll get this thing installed and hardwired to this car. All right, so let's open up the box and I'm going to show you what actually comes in this box. Now, I will have a future video on this, just kind of a review on the whole unit once I've used it for a little bit. So in the box, you have the actual camera unit. Camera right there. Put that to the side. Here we have your 12-volt plug, which we're not going to be using this because we're going to be hardwiring this camera. The rear camera that goes in the back window. And then some other parts. This is the clips that go on the back. They gave you 2 of them with some 3M tape. This basically goes on your windshield and your camera slides right in there, just like that. And of course, you have this little tiny pick. This is just kind of to push the wiring in, whatever you're going to be tucking it into. And some literature. We have some literature right here. Safety guide. Quick start how to use the camera. We have a USB. And this one you could actually, again, you could plug the USB and still get power to the camera just by using a USB. So you don't need a 12-volt or hardwire anything to it. Some additional little foam pads. And you also get I believe this is a micro SD. It's a 32 gig micro SD card with it. So it records everything in here in case something happens, an accident, you can take it out of here, and you could actually download it as well into the phone. And then, of course, a template to where you're going to be mounting the camera. Now, I already have a specific place I'm going to be mounting it, so I may not be using that template. But that's pretty much it.
So let's see what comes in this box. Now, this is the hard wiring kit. This is what's going to wire this to the car. First thing we have is some literature. We'll put that to the side. We know exactly what we're going to be doing here. The little device in here is the motion sensor, which I'm not going to be using. I decided to kind of go against using the motion sensor. So we're going to keep that out to the side. And this is actually pretty easily connected. I'm going to show you guys in a second how it connects. In the other box, of course, we have all the wiring. This has a little bit more literature in there and how to install. Now, again, this right here is got this little USB plug, which plugs into this. And of course, on the other end, you would plug into the actual camera. Since we're going to be using that, we'll put that to the side. Now, here are your two fuses. We're going to actually be cutting this yellow and the red cable and getting rid of the fuses because we're going to be soldering this in straight to the accessory connector on the Pathfinder.
Now, we're going to go ahead and take out all the panels. Again, you've seen my videos before, so these panels are easy. Use your pry tool to pry up on them. Most of you guys have already pulled these out, so you should be able to pull them up by hand like mine. Remove this inner panel here. This one has that little screw in there. It's a plastic screw that you get out by hand. And of course, using your pry tool, go ahead and remove the hood latch lever. And then you'll access your wires. Now, the three wires you're going to use here are going to be the red, the white, and the black.
So I already cut the wires and got the harness ready, but pretty much you guys saw how it comes together. The yellow's with the yellow and the red is with the red here. So what I just did is I went ahead and cut that. I also cut the black wire. I didn't need that little end of the black wire because again, we're going to be stripping everything. This is what you should have left after you're done stripping and cutting the wires. They should look just like this. Then we're going to go to the accessory connector on the car and we're going to strip out the black, the white, and the red wire. Go ahead and just do a quick connect just to make sure that everything works properly. So just go ahead and you're going to connect the yellow wire to the red, the black to the black, and the red to the white. Now we're going to go ahead and plug the camera in and then just start the car or start the ignition only. Do not start the entire car. Just go ahead and hit the all accessories and lights come on. And there you have it. We got power to our camera. And when you turn the ignition off, it should be the same thing. The camera should shut off, just like that. All right, so now that we know that the camera works, let's go ahead and properly run the wiring and actually solder everything in. First, unplug the camera and undo all the wiring we just did. Again, this was just a test out to make sure that the camera was going to turn on and off with the car. Make sure that if you are connected to the car, you don't touch any of the wires together, that they stay separate. If not, you'll cause a short somewhere.
Okay, so we now know the camera works. We saw we plugged it in, we connected it, but we took the connectors off because we're going to be working on running the wire first down there. Now, this could be, once you figured out that part, and again, the connectors are going to work, so you guys just mount your camera and then run the wiring. I'm just showing you. I did it that way to show everybody how they actually work. But I'm going to mount the camera, run the wire down to here, easy. Only thing that's got to come out of here to get to those wiring is got to be basically, depending on where you're mounting your camera. If you're mounting your camera here or on the side windshield over here, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to take much off. I'm going to be mounting my camera underneath the rearview mirror, right in this area right here. So basically, it won't be so intrusive. It won't be right up here where she'll be able to see it, or on this side where she can't reach it. It'll be here. Yeah, you can't really see the screen, but again, I don't want her focusing on the screen. This thing's going to be recording no matter what. I want her focusing on the road. That's what that's for, is basically in case something happens, that'll be recording. So that's going to come in through here. The wire's going to come out through here. I'm going to remove this plastic piece, which your actual front lane camera or whatever you want to call it is inside of here. So you got to be careful when you remove this not to touch that camera, because then you got to be in a world of hurt, and then you have to take it to Nissan to recalibrate. So don't touch that camera that's inside. I'm just doing that to run the wire in here, through here, bring it down here to where the connector's at down there. That's it for that camera. The one that's a pain is going to be running the backup camera. So that's going to be a pain because you got to remove this panel, that panel, and the panel back there. And all the weather trim has to be removed kind of off this top piece to be able to get down here. And there's 3 10mm bolts that got to be removed. You got to remove the headrest, kind of gets to give it some room. It's not that much of a pain, and in a way it's more of a pain than some people would want to probably spend on camera. But again, I want her to be safe. I want everything to be recording front and back. So she's been rear-ended before on a car, and she had no idea what happened. This was when she was pregnant with my daughter, and I was kind of upset, and we couldn't really care. People were blaming so-and-so. She was the first car in line, but either way, she was fine. Baby was fine, of course, but I just want to basically able to catch everything that happens in case of an accident. So let's go ahead, get started. I'm going to, again, mount the front camera first. Preference is individually per person, however you want to do it. My preference is going to be there. You're going to see me how I mount the camera there, how I remove that. Everything is pretty much attached by clips, so be careful when you're removing. You're going to actually really need that trim tool remover, so be careful. Clips, all plastic clips are in here. Only with time, again, you're going to use a 10mm. It's going to be to get in here. But other than that, there's going to be a lot of fishing, of wiring and everything as we go to the back. But let's go ahead and get this one installed first, get it properly mounted, and we'll go from there.
Alright, so it's time to install the camera. First I'm going to install the camera, but I'm going to put the wiring in here first. So go ahead and just pry this off with your fingers. It's not very hard. You don't need a pry tool or anything like that. Once you get that out of the way, you're going to actually notice that the rear view mirror has some wiring, and it's running and actually hooked up onto some little hooks in here. You're going to run the actual cable for the camera exact same way, because you're going to come out with the cable back end right in the same area where the rear view mirror cable comes out. So again, it looks more factory than anything. Once you're done with that, go ahead and just pop this back in, and you should be all set to go. Now we gotta go ahead and install our camera. Now this camera comes with a little template. You gotta put the template on first on the window. So figure out where you're gonna be mounting your camera. Once you put the template, go ahead and just stick the tab that actually holds the camera in place. Now once that sticks in there, that is not gonna come out of there. It's gonna be very hard for it to come out. On my window specifically, I have tint. That's why I put the little template on there. And then the camera just slides into place just like that. Go ahead and plug it in, and then we'll start running the rest of the wiring and hiding the wires down through the pillar. And now this pillar right here just pops right out, so there's nothing to it. Just put your fingers in between. You gotta remove the weather strip on the side here just slightly, just to get in here. And this pops right out. Again, there's all plastic tabs. I mean, this car is held on by plastic tabs, so just be careful. Use the little pry tool that comes with the Rexing camera inside the box, just to insert and kind of wedge the wire right inside of there. This little corner gave me a little bit of a hard time, but once you get that in there, go ahead and just kind of pop everything back into place. Take the weather strip out here. Now this plastic piece pops right out from the bottom, and then you're gonna pull this whole thing straight out, just like that. Again, everything is held on by clips. Now in here, you're gonna have 2 small clips that you're gonna loosen up, because when you reinstall this whole thing, you can't reinstall it like you took it out. You gotta install piece by piece. You're gonna notice this little edge right here. You're gonna run the wire right behind that edge. It's a little plastic edge from the dash. Just push it right behind that edge and then kind of bring it straight downwards. The plastic panels and the weather strip will actually hold the wire in place. Once you get in here, on the harness side for the actual camera, go ahead and insert your heat shrink. And again, we are going to be heat shrinking this to get a nice proper connection and make sure everything is kind of weather tight and watertight. go ahead and start basically just hooking up your connectors. Again, the wires go red and orange, black to black, and white to red. Go ahead and solder everything in place. And then use the heat shrink just to seal up everything. At the end of the whole thing, you can go ahead and just basically zip tie everything and tuck it right back in at the top. Again, the panels will cover everything up. You won't be able to see any of this wiring at the end.
Okay, so I'm running out of time here. The wife has to go to work. Of course, this is her car, this is the main car. And I gotta finish this. Either way, I wouldn't be able to finish it today because I have my kids and a 2-year-old baby that I have to watch after, so I can't really do anything when she's at work. But the camera is mounted, the wiring is soldered in, pretty much hardwired in there. It's still all apart, but before we finish putting everything together, let's go ahead and take a look and see if it actually works. We'll start. Turn the ignition on. And there you have it. And now we have a dash cam that is hardwired in to the car. We ran the cables, not very hard to do. The one that's gonna be a little bit of a pain is gonna be that back camera, and that'll be in the next video. So right after this video, the next one you see, we'll have install the backup dash cam, if you want to call it, on the back. So basically, and then we'll run the wire all through the car to the front of it here. But right now, we do have a camera. Of course, it's got no SD card in there, and it's recording. And there you have it. So let's go ahead and put everything back together. To put everything back together, like I said earlier, make sure you separate these two. Because if you don't, then you're gonna have a hard time putting it back together. The first thing I'm gonna put, of course, and I'll show you guys when I'm doing this here, is put in the weather trim back in there, and then we'll put this back in, and then this back in. It's pretty much how it goes back. And then we'll go ahead and zip tie everything nicely over here, make sure everything's all nicely and tucked away and you can't see any of that wiring.
Okay, so let's go ahead and tidy up everything. Take all the wiring and kind of just stuff it up on the top here. And then take some zip ties and wrap it up against the rest of the harness, your accessory harness that is. Don't hook it up to anything else. Just take the zip ties and hook it up, make it like a nice little bunch up top against the accessory harness. Again, when you put the panels back in, all this will be covered up completely. You won't even see this. I know it looks like a lot of wiring and a mess in there, but that's the best way we're going to be able to do this one. Now it's time to put everything back together. Start by putting the weather strip on the top first here. And then first go ahead and insert this trim piece in here. Now just line up all the clips to the holes. Don't force it in, it'll just snap into place gently. If you force it in and you break a tab, you're gonna have issues. And then this here has 3 little tabs. Those tabs go in first. So you go in at an angle, they slide right in, and then that pops right into place. Go ahead and put down your trim panel at the bottom here. Put your screw back in. Your hood latch. and the trim kick plate, and you're done.
Okay, so I got the car running, everything's put back together like it should, and the camera's going. So far the camera seems pretty good. It actually has a cell phone mode, or if you want to call it a mode where I can actually see everything on the phone, which is right there. Now you could adjust this camera by, there's a little dial right on the side here. If you want to move it up, you can see the picture here if I move it downwards. So we're going to try to get this moved up as far, as high as up as we can. Want to see this most, like right there actually. Alright, so let's go ahead and go for a drive. Now one thing about this app, and I will have a kind of a review on the whole unit in the next few videos here, but one thing about this is that I'm on the Wi-Fi for the camera, which means it shuts down the Wi-Fi. So if I wanted to connect on, especially in the Pathfinder, to the actual iPhone's or the Apple CarPlay, just like that, CarPlay requires Wi-Fi. Would you like to deactivate all the Wi-Fi functionality? So if I hit yes, it kicks me out of the camera, just like that. Completely kicks me out. So I can't use the phone to see that stuff, but of course the camera itself will always be recording. Now of course I would have to go into the menu, and now the camera's recording. But that's the only thing that kind of bummers me about this. I wish I would have seen that. So basically I could have the camera recording just like we're going right now. The camera's recording, doing its job, and it's hardwired in. And of course, as soon as I pull up on the car, there's the car's right there. Park it, shut it off. The camera turns off. That simple. So I had to move the car out of the garage anyways, gotta move my car in. But that's the only thing that kind of sucks about it. Again, I will have a review on the whole video, or I should say on the whole unit, and how I actually like it once I get the backup camera set up and see how everything works out. But so far, not bad for the price. 4K camera. I did lower the resolution so it doesn't suck up the memory card on there. We'll see how that works out as well. Now, you can, of course, download the videos that are on the memory card from there to your phone. In case something happens, you'll be able to download it, or it'll be in the memory card as well. But for now, I'm happy with it. Easy connection for the front one. The one that's going to be in the back is going to be a pain. All right, so that's it. We are done. You guys saw the camera. Very easy to install it on the car. Nothing hard whatsoever. Just three wires that need to be connected. You can do the fuse tap if you want to go that route, which is easier. You could do a USB connector, whichever way you want to do it on this car. But on the Pathfinder, very easy to connect that camera to that accessory connector. Nothing to it. So next video, we'll go ahead and mount that back camera on there. That's going to be more of a pain. A little more panels got to come out of here. But if you did enjoy this video, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Peace.